Hello, welcome back to Quartzlight, your car brochure channel, and in today's episode we're going to continue our story of this Austin Rover Group brochure for January, February, March 1983 with the concluding part, the Rover SD1. Hello and welcome back to Quartzlight. Now if you're new to Quartzlight, we're a car brochure channel here on YouTube, looking at car brochures from around the world for the 60s, 70s, 80s and 90s, sometimes beyond those parameters as well. So if you're interested in cars, car brochures, looking back on cars gone by, it's really all about the memories really, isn't it, and what these cars remind of us. Well, please do consider subscribing. It is all completely free, so hit that subscribe button now. Now, where are we up to? Well, we've been looking at this Austin Rover catalogue for January, February, March 1983. We've looked at the whole range now actually, so if you have missed any of the episodes, I will do a link right at the end of this episode, but we're up to our concluding part, Rover SD1. I don't know about you, but one of my favourite designs, and I always love looking at the SD1. And this time, of course, early Series 2 version, so let's throw that on the board and have a look at the SD1 range. So here we go, Rover, just simply titled Rover. This is the Triumph Acclaim, actually, what we looked at last week. So yeah, the Rover, showing proudly the range top of the Vitesse at this time. Notice, of course, we always refer to it as the Rover SD1, but you'll never see SD1 talked about or shown in any of these brochures. Really, SD1 was more of a code name on production. SD1 referred to, so SD was specialist division and 1 was, the first car to come from the in-house design team. And in some ways it was very much a retrospective name. We kind of like called them the SD1 later on in its life, not really a official name as such. The SD1 was the final Rover badged vehicle to be produced at Solihull. Future Rover models, of course, will be built at the former British Motor Corporation's factories at Longbridge and Cowley. And of course, in this brochure, this is the first time we've seen Rover. Previously, of course, the Triumph Acclaim and kind of like that category became also a small Rover, but at this time, Rover was just seen as a big vehicle, and I always liked it being seen that way. It always felt a bit watered down, I think, when we started building smaller cars, but that's just my view, of course. Please comment in the comments there all your disviews or agreements with anything I say. Obviously, I appreciate everyone's got different views, and I appreciate everybody's. Let's just zoom in on the main image. So here it is, the range top of the Rover Vitesse with all the bits on and a fuel injected engine at this time. Kind of like the Rover you aspired to own at the time, the range topper of the entire Austin Rover range. So certainly if you saw one of these, you got a little bit excited. Although, spoiler alert, it actually wasn't my favourite in the range. I always preferred the Vanden Plas or Vanden Plas, however you want to refer to it, but I will continue calling it Vanden Plas because I'm pretty sure that's how they said it at this time, both in the dealerships, and everyone said that really. I think you was looked at a bit strange if you said anything other than Vanden Plas. So we'll continue saying it that way because this is all about the memories, and I'm sure it doesn't really hurt anyone really me saying that. Anyway, let's turn the page and we'll look at how the Rover SD1 started the range, the base model. So here it is, the base model, just referred to as the Rover 2000 or 2300 at the time. Not even the S, which was the next model up, so really unbadged in that way. And actually, for the time, it was quite nice specs, even for the base model. Nice mirrors and, well, we'll see in a moment. But it was quite nicely spec'd, it had nice seats, etc. So I don't see any reason really not to get the base model. It's certainly a very lovely version of them. and of course more keenly priced than the rest of the range. Also, very interestingly, there's a real long list of optional extras on them as well, so you could basically get the very base model and add just what you needed rather than going to the next model. I always say you should go to the next model really than speccing the base model up, but still, it was there to do it if you wanted to. For example, you can see straight away it looks a bit weird on these steel wheels. Well, you could put alloy wheels on it and it looked like a higher spec model, of course. Anyway, we'll start up here where it tells you sort of the key features. We'll look at the engine choices, then we'll come back to these lovely images. Key features for the base model: central lock-in, which is nice, and I think a bit of a reminder that this was seen as sort of an executive car. Push button LW/MW radio with twin speakers, steering wheel adjustment for reach and brake, programmed rear wash wipe, and bronze tinted glass. So like I say, things like central locking, I don't know if you were really expecting that on the base model. Engine choice, okay, so like we've kind of like hinted at the start, so two engine choices, a 2000 or a 2300. So the 2000 or 2 litre was of course a 4-cylinder inline engine using 4-star fuel, 08C alloy head, twin carb, 1994cc, producing 100 bhp. The 2300 was a 6-cylinder inline, 4-star fuel, 08C alloy head, twin carb, 2350cc, producing 118 bhp. So just looking at the transmission, it's telling us that it had a 5-speed all synchro mesh gearbox. Looks like we can also get a 3-speed auto as an option as well. And yeah, this isn't the best picture in the world, but that is your base model. And like I say, if you change those steel wheels, which I didn't really like the steel wheels on there, and put alloys on there, it would look a pretty good car considering this is a base model. I always think the only thing it really lacked, it looks a little bit strange at the front without sort of like the overriders on the bumpers and without that sort of like under bumper sort of like aero piece on there. We'll have a look at it on the next models, but it looks a little bit peculiar without those. But other than that, I don't see any reason why not to get the base model. I mean, it's even got nice mirrors on it, hasn't it? It looks a real classy car considering it's a base model. And you know, it got things like central locking on it, so wasn't a bad choice for those price conscious motorists who really wanted this car, because it was a good looking car after all. So there we go, we got a rear wash wipe at the back there. You can just about make out how it was badged, so Rover 2000 by the looks of this particular model. Showing here we got a digital clock with the word electronic underneath it, so that would have looked nice in the 80s. A little bit of a look at some of the warning lights you got on there. A little bit of a look that, yes, this was a 5-speed gearbox at the time really. If you weren't getting cars with 5-speed gearboxes, you were a little bit behind. I think this was becoming more the norm by 83, of course. Lovely interior. I always think the SD1, look at that. Lovely seats, and reminder that this is the base model. You know, nice little armrest at the back, a big armrest too, head restraints, etc. But real nice looking comfortable seats for a base model. And then that lovely dash and steering wheel. I'm sure in 83 this looked a little bit special. Bit of an improvement on these Series 2 models with the dash. Very futuristic looking dashboard as well. Very futuristic looking steering wheel as well, to be honest with you. I think the outside and the inside match really well, and overall I think this was a real classy car. Unfortunately, when these first came out, there's so many issues with you know, the controls, as in, you know, manufacturing controls and quality controls on these vehicles, that they ended up with a real poor reputation. But I think around about this sort of time when the Series 2 versions came out, I think they probably, well, I've heard at least that they ironed out a lot of those issues. Now for this base model, The optional extras, and I was surprised when I looked at this how many optional extras you're allowed to get for your base model. So you can get those alloy wheels, which we'll have a look in a moment. We can get an automatic transmission. We could get metallic paint. You couldn't get air conditioning on the base model, but then again, I don't think many people chose air conditioning 83 on their cars anyway in the UK. You get black paint finish, electric windows, front fog lamps, headlamp power wash, rear seat belts, leather upholstery. Leather upholstery you could option on your base model. A bit weird, but still, it was there. If you really wanted to stay with the base model, you could put it on there. And of course, we have to remember, putting all these options on would make a very expensive base model. But, if you just chose like one or two, I suppose that wasn't too bad. You can also get power assisted steering as an option, stereo radio cassette player as an option, stereo radio cassette with 4-speaker option, manual steel sunroof option, electric steel sunroof option, trip computer option, electric remote control and demist door mirrors option. You couldn't get the cruise control, but that's a lot of equipment you can put on your base model, and that really surprised me, I must admit. Anyway, let's move up to the next model, which is the S. Me personally, I would have at least gone up to the S, the next model up. This one's actually available in a few different engine choices. Unfortunately, they've decided to write all this in very light yellow, which is actually even hard to see with the naked eye, but I'll zoom in a moment. As I'll zoom into the specifications as well, and we'll look at those engines in a bit more detail. But I've always thought this is a nice model, the S version. So even when I zoom in a long way, it's still hard to see. Who decided to put very light yellow on a white background is a poor choice. But 3 engine choices. We got the 2300 now. We're now joined with a 2400 turbo diesel and a 2600. And some of the key features of the S. So now we've got this new turbocharged diesel, 2400 SD. I don't really remember the diesels too well. I don't know how they were in sort of comparison with Fords. If anyone wants to let me know, that would be appreciated. We also, of course, still get central door locking. We now get electric demist, adjust door mirrors, radio stereo cassette player now, and now we've moved up to this model, we get electric windows. Yeah, a lot of those features you could add on the base model, as we just looked at, but I think you may as well have just gone up to the S if you did indeed want such features as a stereo radio cassette player, adjustable door mirrors and electric windows. I think rather than sticking them on there, you might as well have gone up to the S. I'm sure the price wouldn't have been much different when you started adding all those on your base model. So engine wise, as we've looked, 3 engine choices. So a 2300, which is a 2350cc, 118 bhp. The 2600 is a 2597cc unit, producing 130 bhp. And then that unusual 2400 SD turbo, 4-cylinder inline turbocharged diesel, 2393cc and 90 bhp. Looks like we get 3-speed also optional on the 2300 and 2600, otherwise you got that 5-speed manual. So there we get this nice image of one of the S models in black. I think it quite suits the black and showing off its sunroof. The rather nice seats in the SD1. The dash, and as we said recently, I think it looks quite futuristic, for 1983 at least. The key in the lock, demonstrating central locking. Now we do get this on the S, the aerodynamic front spoiler, which I think it needs. I think it looks a lot better, and I think it's missing on the base model personally. We get this nice little small image of the 2600S. Little image showing we do get wood and also electric windows now. And then this is apparently showing us the SD Turbo cold start control. Moving up the range, and I think you'll agree, certainly when you see the full range, a pretty good range of SD1s in 83. So these will be the SE models. Now using larger engines, so we can either have a 2600, but now we can have the 3500 as well. So specs wise, it tells us that apparently the 2600 SE is new for this year, so the new 2600 SE derivative, electronic multifunctional trip computer, styled alloy wheels, headlamp power washers and automatic transmission. So 2 engines like we say, so a 3500 SE, which is a 3528cc, which is a V8 engine producing 155 bhp, and the 2600 6-cylinder unit. Tells us automatic is now standard, but you can still option a manual at a no cost option. So nice specifications actually on this one. So we get headlamp power wash, the unusually angled controls here showing the radio stereo cassette player and trip computer, remote control demisting mirrors, and a look at that really rather lovely interior. And then the main image, let's zoom in a bit more at those lovely alloy wheels. Apologies for the reflection. I don't think pictures in these particular brochures, these Austin Rover brochures, were particularly the sharpest at this time, but you know, nice to see what those alloy wheels, and maybe that was the alloy wheel I think we could get on the base model. We've optioned it to have that, which looks nice. We can also see I prefer the look of the high spec models is what I'm trying to say. The front with these like power wash on these sorts of overriders, I think helped the overall look of the car. We can also just about make out how it was badged. This obviously is the 3500 V8 model. Then we get to the real expensive models in the SD1 range, and certainly my favourite model in the SD1 range, the Rover Vanden Plas, and unusually in my favourite colour from the Vanden Plas, opaline green metallic. I think it really suits that colour. Anyway, we'll do as we always do. We'll look at the specs up here somewhere, look at that engine, look at those lovely pictures. So things start to get a little bit fancy now. We get standard equipment now of a cruise control, electric sunroof, Connolly leather upholstery, burr walnut fascia and door inserts, stereo radio, stereo cassette player. So some really nice features on this top model. The engine, and really there is only one engine choice, it's the same as that 3500 SE, that big V8. It gives us a look at that lovely sunroof. It's showing we didn't have to have the Connolly leather, we could have the this woven velvet trim, which is certainly the one I would have gone for. But the Connolly leather upholstery does look lovely. You can guarantee it would have been a lot better, a lot harder wearing. Look at that interior of the Vanden Plas. It just looks absolutely wonderful. Often use the Vanden Plas name at this time for lower spec models. I think it really suits it in Rover. Big Rover trim, I don't know. It's a real nice looking interior. Showing here cruise control, your electric trip computer, and headlamp power wash. Now unfortunately this is probably, like I said, it's my favourite spec and my favourite colour. Unfortunately it does fall on the crease sadly, but it does look something a little bit special, particularly at the front end there. Interesting alloy wheels there as well, but overall, like I said, my favourite model, but there is one model still to come, and maybe this is your favourite. So here we have it, the range topper, the Rover Vitesse, with its fuel injected now V8 engine. So this now raises it up to 190 bhp fuel injected V8 power unit, 135 miles per hour top speed, 0 to 60 in 7.1 seconds, which is certainly a fast car in 1983 considering how big it was. Ventilated disc front brakes and 4 piston calipers, aerodynamic tail spoiler, and some special alloy wheels, which these alloy wheels are certainly my favourite, I must admit. So engine, like I said, V8 engine, fuel injected I think is the main thing, electronic fuel injection, and a 3528cc, 190 bhp now. Looks like we couldn't get it as an auto, only coming as a manual. I do like the alloy wheels shown here, tail spoiler, and also showing you how that was badged, Rover Vitesse. You get a little bit of a top view of that engine. Steering wheel and gauges, seats, which it refers to as being the sport style front seats. And then the model itself, again showing us that sort of rear spoiler, that boot spoiler, how it's badged. Also, we can see the graphics down the side showing Vitesse, and another look at those lovely alloy wheels. The unusual thing about the Vitesse, it had a much more limited range of colours than the rest of the range, so I think there was only 3 different colours you could get it in at this time, but we'll have a look at that later on. I guess there's no time like the present, so let's have a look at these exterior body colours that you could have got with your SD1s. So we'll tell you which are the colours you could get with your SD1, but this is for the entire range except for the Vitesse, because like I said, the Vitesse had a limited range of colours. So for your main models in the SD1 range, you could get, let's have a look what colours you could get actually on this list here. You could get black, and we certainly saw one of the models in black earlier on. You could also have got that silver leaf metallic as well. I believe that was all at this time for them. Let's just move the camera down. So moving the camera down reveals some of the colours you could get for your lovely SD1, like cashmere gold metallic, which certainly would have been a nice one to have, and then metallics like a Porto red metallic you could have, and that opaline green metallic shown on that Vanden Plas, which I really like. And you could also get flat colours as well, like Monza red. And then finishing up with your range of colours with ermine white, you could have zircon blue, champagne beige, and there is one more there, Nautilus blue you could have as well for your big Rover at this time. And obviously that changed quite frequently actually. Now the stranger one was your Vitesse, of course. And then, you know, the Vitesse was unusual, having just 3 colours from this range. First one was Moonraker Blue Metallic, which actually, I think I forgot to mention, that was an SD1 colour as well, but an unusual colour at the time actually. The other colours available for your Vitesse was Monza Red, which was the colour shown in the brochure when we looked at the Vitesse, and then the final colour, which we looked at earlier, which was Silver Leaf Metallic, also available for the Vitesse. But that was a bit weird that at this time you can only get those 3 colours for that range topper. And that brings us to the end of the brochure. Unusually started showing this base model Austin Ambassador, and I don't know if you remember that particular episode. If you missed that episode, we'll do a link at the end, but you know, it's telling us here that the big advantage with the Ambassador, it's got more room than the Sierra, more room than the Cavalier inside. So like I said when I was talking about that, it was really sold on the size of the vehicle. You get a lot of car for the money, but still a little bit unusual competing against Sierras and Cavaliers. I think it was quite an elderly design. And then on the next page we got such thing, a little bit of a cutout section down here for Metro Surance from as little as £55. And then on the next page, I guess this is quite relevant to what we've been talking about today, Saloon Car Championships, or the works supported Sanyo SO Daily Express Rover 3500, looking quite amazing at speed. I do believe it was a class winner at the time. We also get a couple of little images there of the MG Metro Challenge, and then the publication number there, 3535F. So yeah, quite an interesting brochure. I'm sure you'll agree for this one. And like I say, if you missed any of the episodes, I will put it on the end of this video, a little bit of a box for you. So this one was covered January, February, March 1983, and they did lots of updates of these brochures, and I always enjoyed looking through them. And of course I always enjoyed looking through that colour chart, which I think the colour chart was actually one of the best out there at the time, in terms of in a brochure that you could really picture your car in that colour. A lot of the others, very difficult to tell what you was actually going to be walking out the showroom with unless you saw the car in the showroom. But there we go, an interesting range of cars. I guess we should ask, as we always do for those who've watched every model in this series, which model would you have chosen? Please jot that in the comments. For me, my favourite car is that lovely Rover SD1 Vanden Plas. That's the one I would have dreamed of having for sure. Although I think I would have been quite happy with the base model. It wasn't bad, and I'm sure an awful lot cheaper. I probably would have walked out with something like, I don't know, an Ambassador Vanden Plas, though, and wondered why it's got so many blanking plugs in there. But there we go. Let me know in the comments what you think. But thank you so much for watching today. And of course, all those who have subscribed, thank you so much. If you've not subscribed, of course, you can do so. It is completely free. There is no payment out there. Some people do get that mixed up, but I think they get mixed up because we've also got something called membership, and you can become a member for a small fee, really to help us grow the channel, and we do appreciate that support. But it's of course not necessary. You can just subscribe, and that does help as well. And certainly have a look at our homepage for subscribing and becoming a member as well. We haven't got many members at the moment, so we're not giving too much away, but certainly I will comment on all your comments you make if you're a member. And when we get more members, we'll start doing extra little clippets, maybe behind the scenes stuff. But thank you so much for those who have become a member. It's very much appreciated. And please do give me my thanks, and certainly, like I say, hopefully there'll be more for you soon. I do appreciate your support, knowing you really don't get much extra than what the regular viewer gets. Anyway, I'm waffling. I do apologise. We'll end by saying this is where we're going to put a couple of extra boxes up there. One will be for this full series, so you'll be able to click on that and see all the episodes, and one is usually a random episode that YouTube puts up there. But like I say, we'll end by saying thank you so much for watching. Please do take care. We'll see you very soon, and goodbye.